This is the world that we are living in now. How can we change it? Is this the world that we want to leave behind? Can hydrogen be the solution?
Imagine you live in a house that's not connected to the grid, that there are no power lines, yet nothing has changed. You still have internet, heat, hot water. The only difference is now you're producing and using your own power. Does that sound like something from the future? Well, it's not. It's here today, thanks to hydrogen.
The Fiswa house is a 100% self-sustaining home. It has energy-efficient architecture, produces its own energy via solar, and converts any excess power to hydrogen. The property is also designed to collect water, which it cleans and filters.
Home Power Solutions is a startup from Berlin. The founder had a vision. He wanted to create a totally energy-independent home. So he researched how to do that, he found a solution, and that solution was hydrogen.
A battery is a perfect short-time energy storage and a power reserve. Actually, a battery is not such a good energy storage if you need to store bigger amounts in a longer period of time. Hydrogen has a typical characteristic. It is actually quite cheap to store energy in hydrogen on the one hand, but the operational costs with hydrogen are higher. On the other hand, the costs of a battery are higher in the capex and the invest you have to take, but then on the operational side, it is cheaper. So we have certain amounts of energy that need to be shifted over a short period of time. This is perfectly done with batteries, but if you need to store higher amounts of energy about a longer period of time, hydrogen is the ideal solution.
The reason it makes sense to use hydrogen to store energy that you create from your home is that if you wanted to store all the energy that you needed to, say, survive most of the winter, you'd need a second home for all the batteries that you'd need to store that energy.
Electricity is used on the one hand directly to supply the house, which is actually the best because every energy storage in this world has efficiency and costs money, so it would be perfect if we could use the energy directly. But of course we want the energy also in the night time or in the winter, so we store the energy for these times. We store them in batteries on the one hand, and the very special thing about our system, we also store the energy seasonal-wise in hydrogen, and we do that via the electrolyzer. And the electrolyzer takes the clean energy from the sun, takes water, produces hydrogen and oxygen, and the hydrogen is stored for the winter time. In the wintertime, when there's not enough sun, we use the carbon-free produced electricity actually from the summertime.
So we've seen that hydrogen can power a home, but can it power a city? And if it can take on powering that city, Don, can it take on creating that city out of hydrogen? And I mean industry and steel production, like physically creating the city.
Yeah, that's a huge task for the energy companies. I mean, they have to produce enough renewable energies to give that to the industrial clients. This is really complicated for them and they need strategies. So we drove to Hamburg and we spoke to Oliver Weinmann. He's managing director of Vattenfall Europe, one of the largest energy companies in the world. And we wanted to know what Vattenfall is doing to deal with this problem.
Yeah, what we are doing right now is that we are developing new projects where we can enter into this hydrogen business. We did in the past, we did some research, some early developments. We built the first hydrogen filling station here in Hamburg some 10 years ago with an electrolyzer. And now we want to step into business. So the next step in the transition, and these are larger projects with more customers and different branches, different sectors where we want to supply the hydrogen. We have one project in Sweden which is called Hybrid. It is a green steel project where Vattenfall is involved. In the north of Sweden there are huge capacities on steel production. Sweden itself has a very ambitious target on getting the country CO2-free in the future. And they have a focus now on industrial decarbonization and are part of this process. The first project we started some years ago is fossil-free steel with a main steel factory in northern Sweden and a mining company. And here we built up the first demo plant, which was put in operation 2 weeks ago.
This is an interesting glimpse into the future, but it's just one factory in Sweden, and it's done by a private company. We need to do more to transform the industry, which means that the state has to step in. The good news is, some states have already a plan in place to drive their society away from fossil fuel-based energies.
One of the things you may have heard a bit about is the Green New Deal in Korea, and it's a plan to achieve a carbon zero society by 2050. That's not only about promoting clean energy solutions, but of course it has the added benefit of also creating jobs and fostering zero emission solutions on an industry scale. On the other hand, of course, for us, it supports our zero emission initiatives here in Europe. So exciting stuff, and we're very happy to hear about this Korean Green Deal.
Hydrogen can transform a whole industry and make it sustainable. But what about one city, one village, or even one family somewhere in the world? What about areas where families don't have access to the electrical grid? Hydrogen is already helping people here and in their everyday life.
If you're talking about, let's say, powering normal people's lives in Africa, I can report of some discussions that we have with a Berlin startup company that want to put in place electrolyzers, saline electrolyzers in Africa, basically offer this electrolyzer together with hydrogen-powered kitchens and heating plates. Because currently people use still carbon-based heating materials down there. And so, for example, this would be a way to improve ordinary people's life from moving from this carbon-based heating materials for their everyday cooking purposes to a hydrogen-based one.
The company Professor Strasser is talking about is called Boreal Light. And we visited the founder of this company because he has a groundbreaking vision to make everybody's life a little bit better by using hydrogen.
I myself, I had also this problem, access to clean water, also when I was a child. So that's why it was something that I saw we have to change it. And then we start developing on this device, and 2 years later, we end up with the first completely solar-based desalination system. What we are doing, we're taking any kind of water, polluted water, salt water, sweet water, we desalinated it, we clean it with UV, with sand filter, with carbon filter, so at least you have drinkable hygiene water.
Water is an expensive good, so reusing wastewater would be the only way to secure water access for millions of people. Mr. Allah Hakim has also found a solution for this, because his technology can be used to produce cheap drinking water.
The normal 20 liter, you can have it in the supermarket in the cities like Nairobi, Mombasa for $4 to $5. We are selling this amount of water for $1 in the cities, and in villages we are selling 20 liter of water for 10 euro cents. So it's 1/14 of the normal prices.
Making hydrogen from wastewater is part of a growing trend of making hydrogen from waste. Some are calling this white hydrogen, which is even more interesting when you learn that it can be made from non-recyclable plastic. There might be a debate around climate change, but there cannot be a debate around the plastic Armageddon that we are currently facing.
It is possible for hydrogen to replace fossil fuels on every level of society, in cities, in industry, in cars, in homes, and even in remote areas where they so far had to rely on fossil fuels.
Find out how realistic it is for us to leave fossil fuels completely in our final episode of the Hydrogen Discovery Series.